Hey everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, and welcome back if you stopped by before. This will be my full spoiler-free review of Harvestella from someone who's clocked over 120 hours into the game and has completed the main story. There is still some post-game content I have not beaten, but you know, life. That being said, I did not want to release a guide until I had experienced most of what the game has to offer, and I do feel at this point I'm ready to review the full game. Disclaimer, I will be comparing this game a lot to the Rune Factory series, as there are a lot of similarities, and they are from the same genre of fantasy life sim slash RPG slash farm sim. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe as it helps me a ton, and without any more delays, let's get into it. Harvestella is an RPG farming simulator created by Square Enix. It is the first and only game in the series so far, but here's to hoping it can get a sequel to have an even more robust game. My first impressions of this game upon launching it up is that it is beautiful and very polished. I did not experience any stuttering or performance issues. The beginning of the game does a wonderful job at teaching you the game mechanics and fleshing out the world and story in just the way you'd expect from a Square Enix title. It did not take me long to become hooked on this game, and I will tell you why now. The story. Harvestella is set in a fantasy world that receives magic from 4 crystals that represent each season. These crystals are known as Seaslight. There is a Seaslight that represents autumn, spring, summer, and winter. The world is also ravaged by a strange phenomenon known as quietus, which occurs one day in between the change of the seasons. Quietus is known as the season of death, when the dust from the Seaslight is abnormally emitted into the atmosphere. Quietus only lasts the one day, but during this time, it is deadly for humans to be outside and monsters are even more violent than ever. The sky turns a pinkish red and dread fills the air. The world is made up of humans and omens. Omens are a sort of mechanical-looking race, and through most of the game are shrouded in mystery. It is this mystery that has them feared by humans. The story begins with the player character knocked out in the middle of the deadly quietus and is restored by a mysterious figure. She mentions you may be the one to save the world, and then disappears. Your character then passes out, and similarly to Rune Factory, the character has amnesia. You are found by the local doctor, restored, and given a plot of land to live on and farm at by the mayor of the nearby town. During your initial visit to the town, the 4 Seaslights start glowing and the world begins to shake. Strange happenings occur at each of the 4 Seaslight, including a falling star landing right in front of the town with what seems to be an omen inside of it. Your quest begins to visit each of the Seaslight and investigate the anomalies located there. After the first dungeon, the world really opens up. You'll meet new allies and party members to fight alongside at each step in the journey. I won't be delving any deeper into the story as to avoid spoilers, but I will say that this game has Xenoblade level plot twists by the end of the game that will completely change your view of this entire world. And as a huge Xenoblade fan myself, that's saying something. This story is good. Gameplay. Okay, so let's get the cat out of the bag. The character creation is awful. You get 2 body types to choose from: hair color, eye color, their pronouns, and their voice. That is it. No differing anything beyond that. This was truly a loss, but hopefully they make a sequel that can improve on this. The gameplay itself is broken up into 2 big chunks, which is the farming slash life sim aspect and the RPG aspect. Regardless of what you are doing in-game, minus a few points in the main story, time flows as you are playing the game. Each day starts at 6 AM and ends after midnight if you do not go to sleep before then. You will then need to be in bed before you pass out after midnight to avoid paying money and losing 6 hours of the next day. Farming slash life sim. The farming in this game is extremely intuitive, almost to a fault. On the one hand, it is really easy to get the swing of how farming works in the game relatively quickly just by doing the tutorial. The downside to this is that there are no deeper systems to really flesh out or maximize your farming efforts. For example, in Rune Factory, you have crop levels that when you increase will increase the value of your crops, soil level to yield healthier crops, growth level of the soil to speed up the growth of crops, and a monster capturing mechanic to take over the farm work for you. In Harvestella, it's as simple as hoe, plant, water, and harvest if we're being honest. You can then keep the crop for cooking or selling it. There are other ways to help your farming in Harvestella, so keep an eye out for my farming guide, but as a whole, it's just not as robust as the Room Factory's farming system. I do also wish that the days were longer or that farming was quicker, because once you expand your farm, you can find a good chunk of your day gone after tending to the farm. As the game goes on, you will get new areas for your farm that can grow different types of crops, and your base farm will also get larger. You will also unlock new methods to make farming faster and more efficient as you play the story. As a whole, farming leaves a lot to be desired for many longtime fans of the genre, but it is also very calming and the simplicity is rather enjoyable at times. Aside from farming, you can also raise chickens and goats, craft items, cook, and fish. Raising animals is as simple as purchasing the pin from the carpenter, feeding them, petting them, and collecting their drops to sell. Nothing too interesting there, but a good way to make money. Crafting and cooking are also simple, just need the required items and the time it takes to make. I'm not sure why every single RPG needs a fishing mechanic, but here we are. Can we start getting like butterfly catching or hunting or literally anything else? But I digress. As mentioned above, there is a carpenter in the neighboring town who can expand your farm, repair your kitchen, and build/expand an area for livestock. As you advance the story, you will get event quests from important characters that will level up their friendship, flesh out their character, and if they are a party member, it will also increase your stats. I was ready to have a section about there being no romance or marriage system in the game, however, there is such a system, however, it's locked to post-game. To me, this is a huge wasted opportunity. My only assumption is that the developers thought it would mess up the story. However, I feel this is a huge wasted opportunity, as many players, myself included, find it so much fun in the romance process of these types of games. Because I have not reached this point in the game myself, I will save commenting on it. But hey, please let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to make a follow-up video about the romance in this game, once I've experienced it myself. The farming and life sim elements do enough to scratch the itch, and I really enjoyed seeing my farm grow and eventually hit the maximum currency in the game, but I do really hope they can add on to these systems in future installments. Overall, nitpicking aside, I really enjoyed these portions of the game. RPG elements. The RPG side of the game divides things up into a main story, sprinkled up with a bunch of side quests. I will say this right now, do not skip the dialogue in this game for the main story or the side quests. The storytelling and writing is top tier. Each event is so well told and I thoroughly enjoyed enveloping myself in this world and the characters within. Harvestella is not an open world game, but rather each area is set up into large maps connected by the world map. Each dungeon map is pretty direct on how to explore it, with some puzzles sprinkled here and there to shake it up. The world the game takes place in is absolutely beautiful. The closest thing I can compare it to is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Each town in Harvestella really fits its season theme, and they're all so different from each other and just so much fun to look at. Shatola, the beachside town, is my personal favorite. Combat in Harvestella is straightforward hack-and-slash action RPG gameplay. It's pretty similar to Rune Factory in the way you kind of just run up and beat up monsters. However, Harvestella has a job system rather than changing your weapon type. When you kill enemies, you receive EXP to level up and increase your stats, as well as job points, or JP, needed to acquire skills on the skill tree for each job. Just as a disclaimer, this is not a Skyrim or a Rune Factory where you have many skills and abilities to level, just your main stats and your job points. The combat, though on the simple side, is really fun, and the different types of jobs you can get really keep the combat engaging. Enemies in the game have up to 4 weaknesses to be targeted, and once you hit them enough with their weakness, they will hit the break status, which allows you to do more damage to them. Each combat ability does a different damage type, which certain enemies are weak to. There are 10 jobs you get from playing the story, and 2 secret jobs you need to go out of your way to get. Classes are really diverse, and with there being physical and magical classes, as well as ranged versus melee classes, you will find something that resonates with you. Be sure to switch classes often to target the enemies in the area's weaknesses. There will definitely be a playstyle that suits you when going through each class. Each of the classes has a skill tree where you can spend JP to unlock active and passive abilities. Each class has 4 abilities, 3 of which are unlocked early into this skill tree, and 1 that is unlocked at the end. My biggest gripe for the combat is most jobs don't have a way to dodge or really block at all. It just becomes face tanking every hit and healing through it most of the time. That's something I really hope they improve on in future installments. There's also only one healing skill in the entire game, otherwise you'll need to use food or drink to heal. But hey, be sure to subscribe so you catch my combat guide video that will go into more depth to the combat in this game. As you progress through the game, you will unlock new party members with different abilities. You can adventure out with 2 party members at a time and change them out at the monolights or the save points around the map. Party members will level up with you, however they do not have a skill tree and they are not controllable. In the initial town, you can use materials you've collected on your journey to upgrade your and your party members' weapons. Building and crafting materials can be harvested all over each map, including your own farm. Harvesting points take stamina to harvest at, but as you play the game you can unlock multiple ways to lower stamina cost, get better items, and get more items per harvest. In regards to the main story, you can do this at your own pace. There is no time you need to complete the story events by. The game really gives you the freedom to alternate between quests, story, leveling, exploring, grinding, and more. There are some days in-game that I dedicate entirely to farming and crafting, and others where I go out and fight monsters and gather materials. Harvestella does a great job of allowing you to balance the mechanics at your own pace. Graphics. So while I myself am not a graphics snob, I did want to mention that aside from the game looking great, it performs really well. The only issues I had were after playing for a really long time in a row, my chickens in the farm started to spawn on the roof of the barn, which was not only hilarious, but easily fixed by saving, closing out the game, and reloading. The only other thing I saw in my entire 120-hour plus playthrough was a glitched wall texture in the room of the home, and it fixed itself a second or so. It didn't take long for it to correct. Not sure if this was the game or my Switch, but figured I would mention it. The menus and UI are pretty intuitive except for how to change your class. You need to go to Party and then select your character to change your class, which I don't feel is the most user-friendly, but that's just me belly aching. Music and audio. While a matter of opinion, I really enjoy the music in this game. Square Enix is not known to mess around when it comes to music and graphics of their games, and Harvestella is no exception. Not a lot to add here, but if you're a fan of video game music, I think you will like this a lot. When it comes to storytelling, there is no voice acting in this game. I'm in the camp of leaving no voice acting in the past. I really feel like it adds to setting the scenes and emotion in the game, and overall provides a great experience in storytelling and character development. You'll get a few lines of dialogue here and there, but most of the game you will have to read, so be ready for that. In conclusion, I really enjoyed my time with Harvestella from beginning to end. That being said, it still leaves a lot to be desired. It checks all the boxes for the genre and even goes above and beyond in some regards, like with the visuals and the storytelling. However, they could have really fleshed out the combat, life/farming sim, and character relationships to really set it as one of the best games in the genre. If you're a fan of the genre or would like to start playing the genre, this is a fantastic game and I definitely recommend you pick it up. The RPG and story elements of the game take a front seat, while the farming and life sim aren't as strongly focused on when comparing it to a game like Rune Factory or Story of Seasons. Whether this is a good or bad thing really comes down to personal preference, honestly. For me, I had my moments of really wanting to push the story, and I had my other moments of really wanting to envelop myself in the farming portion. If you're playing more on the casual side, you can beat Harvestella in about 54 hours, so it doesn't need to be as big of a time sink for you as it was for me. But that speaks volumes of how much I love this game, and I really enjoyed getting lost in the world of Harvestella. There's a lot of fun to be had with this game. At the end of the day, I really hope we get some sequels to this game, as I do feel they could take what's already been done and really improve on it and just make some fantastic farming life sim RPG games out of it. Do you have any thoughts on the game after playing it? Or are you wanting to go pick up a copy after watching this video? Sound off in the comments below, I'd love to hear. Drop a like and subscribe to help support the channel, and stay tuned for my next Harvestella video. Come say hi to me on the weekends at my stream. Links to the socials are in the description. Have a wonderful day. Bye!